Welcome to the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast, hosted by your favourite duo, Stephen and Charlene. They're here to help you transform your mindset and create a positive outlook on life. Are you tired of feeling stuck and unfulfilled? Are you ready to take control of your thoughts and emotions and rewrite your story? Well, you're in the right place. They will be sharing inspiring stories, practical tips, and expert advice to help you on your journey to a better you. You'll learn how to let go of negative self-talk, embrace your strengths, and focus on the good things in life. Each episode will be joined by amazing guests who have rewritten their own life stories and are now living their best lives. From successful entrepreneurs to accomplished athletes, we'll bring you stories of resilience, courage, and triumph. So grab a cup of coffee, get cozy, and get ready to be inspired. Tune in every week for a new episode of the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast. Let's rewrite our stories together and make every day count.
In this episode, we interview Aisen Li, a dedicated dating coach hailing from Austin, Texas, with a unique mission. Aisen specializes in assisting Asian men in breaking free from limiting beliefs and racial barriers to discover the path to love. Interestingly, he's affectionately dubbed the Asian Hitch by his mother. Join us as we delve into his story today.
Before we get started, we want to remind you that the information presented in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and their guests are their own and do not represent the views of any organisation or entity. Additionally, any information presented should not be taken as legal, medical, or financial advice. Always consult with a licensed professional in the respective field for any advice or guidance. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's dive into today's topic and learn how to transform our lives through positive thinking and taking control of our stories. Thanks for joining us.
Before we begin, we want to give you a heads up. We may be discussing some sensitive and personal topics that might bring up some strong emotions or discomfort. Our goal is to create a safe and supportive space, but we know that everyone's experiences and triggers are different. If you start feeling overwhelmed or triggered during an episode, remember to prioritize your well-being. It's totally okay to hit pause and take a breath. Your self-care is important, and looking after your mental and emotional health should always come first. If you ever need extra support, we encourage you to reach out to a mental health professional or someone you trust. You're not alone, and there are resources available to help you on your personal journey. Thank you for joining us on this incredible ride with the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast. Together we'll navigate life's challenges and rewrite our narratives with strength and resilience.
Hey everyone, it's Stephen and Charlene, and welcome to another episode of the Rewrite Your Life Story podcast. I am super excited today because I have no idea where this interview is going to take us. We have Aisen Li, all the way from Austin, Texas, who is known as the Asian dating coach. So all you single men out there, this episode is for you.
Listen up.
Aisen, welcome to the episode.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Now, Aisen, I am so intrigued about your career choice, how you became the Asian dating coach, because obviously you didn't leave school one day and decide, I'm going to be a dating coach. So bring us right back to your upbringing and how this path evolved.
All right. Okay. So I was born in China. And when I was maybe one, my family moved to Europe. So the Czech Republic at the time, now known as Czechia. And over there, it's interesting because my father had a car parts business with the aftermarket parts for Skoda. And my mother was doing fashion. So she had a boutique clothing store over there. And I was surrounded by a lot of magazines, cosmopolitans, runway shows. And then at a young age, I wanted to impress my mother. So eventually I was like, hey, Mom, I wanted to be in one of these magazines when I grew up. So basically that's how the modeling journey got started in my mind, as a 5-year-old. And then we moved to China for a little bit. So when I was 6 years old, I went back to China. And the journey is interesting because in Europe, I felt like I was one of the kids for other kids. I wasn't judged or discriminated. But when I moved back to China, everyone else was like, hey, who's this white kid, quote unquote, right? Because my skin color was lighter and I didn't speak the language as well as, other kids did. nor did I know how to use the chopsticks. So I was like requesting these all like different things from the teachers at the time. And I was getting this special privileges. And it's interesting because looking back, that kind of helped me become a better person, since the bullying, it made me feel like, hey, I got to stand up for myself. I got to bring more to the table. I can't just be myself. And eventually, a few years later, we moved to the States. And same thing, I was now the Chinese kid. So I had to go overcome that as well. But the second time around was much easier. However, I was the only child, and that really affected me because I felt like, because my parents were always at work and didn't really have anyone to talk to. And that played into my introverted nature as well. So I was pretty introverted and eventually got into sports because I saw that all the popular kids play sports, but I never felt like I truly belonged. I felt like I was like kind of on the outside of things. And eventually I saw some of my friends getting into relationships or started going on dates, especially towards the end of high school, which is when people started driving. And I would call my friends on the weekends, say, hey, let's go watch a movie or let's go play some sports, play some basketball. And they were like, oh, no, I'm sorry, I have a date. I'm like, oh, wow, everyone's going on these things called dates. Maybe I should start dating. And at the time, I had no idea, no previous skills or no previous knowledge of how that went down, because my parents, or at least coming from an Asian family, we didn't really address dating or relationships, because it was all about going to school, getting good grades, going to a good college, and eventually finding a good career. And that was kind of clueless. And moving forward to college, I started exploring that part of me. And eventually, after a few years, I got better. And some of my friends were asking me for advice and, getting into relationships as a result. And fast forward to after college, I actually, did move to LA to start my career and as a model, which I was proud of. But because modeling isn't a full-time job, I had to make ends meet. And I didn't want to get a full-time job because then I would sacrifice my modeling career. So what I did was I looked at my skills, and dating or helping other people date was one of my skills. So I started, posting ads on Craigslist, which was a website at the time which people could use to look for others with skills or certain mentorships. So I started doing that and got my first client, and he was a lawyer, and he paid me about $250 to take him out for a night and help him talk to women. And that's how my career got started.
Wow. That's really interesting. And are you still modeling? Can we ask about that?
Not anymore. But people still hit me up. But hey, if something's happening, and they want me as a model, I'll be more than happy to.
Okay, cool. Being Asian, and I'm not Asian, but being married to someone who's part Asian, how did your parents take that? Like, that is totally probably not what you studied at college.
That's right. Yeah, so it's funny because they're like, what do you do? Like, why do people pay you money for this? Like, are you scamming people? And I'm like, no, people actually want help in this area. It's needed in our community, because they didn't understand. They thought like the progression was go to school, get a job, and eventually, a wife is going to just come and land on your lap. But apparently that's not how it works in real life. So I was telling them, and, they're just happy that I'm able to do something I enjoy and make decent income doing it. So,
Yeah.
Awesome. What are some of your personal struggles throughout your journey?
yeah, so I was very shy, and I felt like, I had to wear a mask to be a certain person that the ladies wanted, which was definitely the biggest struggle, because it took me a while to overcome that and really be happy with myself. Because back then, I would say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there wasn't a lot of mindset development going on in the dating community. It was more so like, hey, here's a pickup line. Here's some tricks and strategies that you could do. Hey, don't be yourself, because yourself sucks. That's why you're not getting girls. You got to be this other person. So pretend to be cool, right? Pretend to be another person so you can attract the ladies. So that was the biggest obstacle for me, because I felt like I wasn't genuine whenever I tried to do that. So now I tell others to embrace yourself. It doesn't matter if someone else doesn't like you for yourself, because then you'll be okay liking yourself. At least you can like yourself. And you won't feel bad for pretending and putting on a mask, since obviously you can get a date or even, moving a little bit further, but it's never going to be a real relationship since that person that you're trying to attract doesn't know the real you.
When I was doing a bit of research on you, I watched one of your videos on your YouTube channel, and you say on this video, you're not a pickup artist. You don't teach how to be a pickup artist, and you've distanced yourself from that industry. For those that don't know the difference, do you want to explain the difference of what you meant in that one-liner and what you do as a dating coach?
Right. So with pickup, it's more like, there's some tricks and strategies you use to make a girl fall in love with you. But for me, with my coaching, it's more so about honesty, integrity, and just being the best version of yourself, becoming the person that you want to attract. So it's a little bit different. And with me, I feel like I say that I'm more of a therapist and a cheerleader than anything else, because I help people break down their limiting beliefs as well as cheer them on and give them positive affirmations that they might have never gotten growing up.
Yeah. Wow. So what is it that got you from that shy person and going through those pickup lines to realizing that you needed to be more genuine? Like, what was that turnaround for you?
Yeah. So I'm a very honest person, very transparent. So being someone else, I was playing a role in a movie or something. And I was always like, hey, what if this person found out that I'm not this person that I'm trying to portray? That's like the worst feeling for me because I felt so guilty or I felt so ashamed of the person that I wanted to become. Whereas like I could just try to become a better person, a better version of myself where I can actually love the person that I am rather than trying to be someone that I'm not. And that was very painful for me.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, when does the coaching stop? Like, do you stop at the date? Do you stop? Like, do you bring this through into the relationships as well? Like, where does your coaching start and where does it stop?
Right. That's a good question. So my coaching is one-on-one and is customized to the person's needs. So for example, if a person has no experience, that could be a little longer than someone with a little bit of experience. And even after the program ends, they can still schedule more sessions with me to follow up on things or even just to check in.
And who's your typical client? I'm just curious.
Yeah, this is a great question as well, Stephen. So my typical client is going to be someone similar to me, right? Similar in age. So late 20s to mid 30s, and someone that's also in the STEM fields. So science, technology, engineering, or math. And I find this very interesting is that the personality traits for these people are going to be similar to who I was in college, which was an INTJ, introverted person that likes to be logical, analytical, and less so emotional.
Do you find that sometimes maybe extroverted people also suffer from not being able to find the right people or the right hookups?
Definitely. But with extroverted people, they're able to express themselves more and take the opportunities more.
Yeah.
So that's why even if they're not that good, they try 100 times. Hey, they land somebody.
Hey, I'm going to throw some. I'm a single guy. I don't have a date. Hey, we've known each other since we were 14. So there wasn't, that dating for us as such. Single guy, don't know how to date. Do I just go on the apps, start dating from apps? Because we know like the apps are popular now. Or do you teach me how to go to a bar or in Australia, a pub? Like, where do we go? Yeah.
Yeah, this is very interesting. So first, you got to find out what kind of relationship you want, right? What are you looking for in terms of dating? So with the apps, even though it's very convenient, for men, you're not going to get the best results on these apps from the very get-go because this is the analogy I like to make. I like to make fishing analogies, even though I don't really fish. So with the apps, it's like you're fishing with the fishing pole and let's say you have like 5 poles, just sitting there. You don't know who's going to come, who you're going to catch and when they're going to come. So it's just like a waiting game. Whereas like if you talk to people in person, it's like fishing with a net. You can catch, you're looking at the fish, you can try to scoop it up. And sometimes you miss. At least, like that's the fish you're targeting. That's the fish you're trying to catch. So even with the apps as well, an attractive woman is going to get 30 to 50 different likes every day. So you're competing with a whole lot of people. Whereas like in person, that woman might not have anyone approach her that day. So you're competing on that end, which is a lot different. And in person, you're able to establish more of a genuine connection, first impression. So I recommend talking to people in person first.
Yeah.
When you say talking in person, what does that look like? Or is that specific to the individual?
Yeah. So bars obviously are places to be social, but not everyone enjoys that setting. So you got to find a place that you actually spend time in, and then so that you can find that person that enjoys similar activities so that you guys have something to talk about. So if you don't drink and you're at this bar that's loud and crazy, drunk guys, you might not feel as comfortable. You don't even feel like you have a similarity with the other person that's also drinking. So it's hard to connect. So finding a place that might be the grocery store, that might be a bookstore, or even an event that you guys enjoy.
Are you in a relationship, Aisen?
Well, currently I am seeing some people, but I think my relationship style is different. So I think eventually I'd like to have multiple relationships all at once. I just don't know, because if I can survive, or if I can provide for 7 wives, then that's what I would like.
I'm just wondering.
Maybe I'm crazy. I think I might be a little crazy. That's what I think.
I just think several mother-in-laws would laugh. I'm just curious, is your career seen as something positive to relationships, your personal relationships? Is it seen, are you trying to, do some voodoo to me? I'm just wondering, how does it play out for you?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I was scared to tell people what I did. I felt like, hey, if I did tell people, they might see me differently, and then, or like they might think I have all these tricks up my sleeves. But nowadays, I just tell people, hey, this is what I do. If not okay with it, then I guess we're not a good match. Mm. But 90% of people are very happy that I'm vulnerable and that I do what I do, because they tell me that men do need certain coaching. Men have no idea. Sometimes, they don't take hints. They don't get the hints at all. So, but 10% of them are going to be like what you said, Stephen. Hey, like, you're trying to manipulate me. I don't want this. But I feel like that's coming from insecurity as well. So they need to do their own healing first before getting into a relationship.
That is a really good point. That is so true. Sometimes those type of judgments come from our own insecurities and our own not knowing our own scarring and what's happening. And we're only 100% in control of ourselves. When you work with a client and you say you're working on limiting beliefs and all that, what type of tools do you use to help the client overcome those limiting beliefs and gain? We know that confidence comes through practice, but how do they take the first step? What kind of modalities or tools do you use with your clients?
Yeah, I want to share something really, insightful for me. So in the very beginning, I asked my clients to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10, just overall. And the average score is going to be a 6 or 7. And then the next exercise I let them do is to write down 10 accomplishments. And then I would go over these accomplishments, but then I would say, hey, imagine this person wasn't you. Imagine this person is someone else. Now, this person's done this, that, went to this school, got a good job, has a great place that he lives in, has a 401k, which is like the savings account here. What do you think of this person? What would you rate him? And the score is always higher, closer to a 9 or 10 every time. So, this person is literally you. Like, why don't you rate yourself higher now? Yeah, you know what? You're right. I should see myself as a higher score. And that's the insight that they got. They're like, you know what? What is blocking me from seeing myself? And then we break it down even more, understanding what was your childhood like? What happened there, right? Was your childhood filled with love? Did your parents ever give you praises or affirmations? Or did they give you a lot of criticism for doing something wrong, even just a little bit? And that plays into self-worth. So if someone that got a lot of love as a kid, encouragement, then they're going to feel that their self-worth is a lot higher. But if someone that got a B on a test, felt like they failed the whole family, dishonored their family, then they're not going to have higher self-worth.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm hearing is it's our self-worth that actually makes us more attractive.
That's right.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah. When someone's confident, it sort of oozes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's really...
The energy is different. Yeah.
So sometimes it's so obvious that it's almost, we overlook things like that.
Yeah. So my self-worth then determines how I approach others,
Yeah, how you betray or how you portray yourself. So if a person with higher self-worth, they're going to feel like they are almost like the prize, which is not a bad thing, right? So let's say if you have the cure to cancer and you don't tell anyone, then who's going to know, right? Just like, hey, if you're like a great guy, with a great personality that's loving, but you don't tell anyone, then you're not doing a very good service for others. So you're doing a service for the single ladies who want to have a person like that. And also with self-worth comes with positive attitude. So certain things, like the same event could happen, but two people can treat it differently. So for example, recently a client said that, hey, like this one girl that I was talking to ghosted me for 3 weeks. Now she's back. She just, randomly said hi in my inbox. And then I was like, hey, okay, how does that make you feel? He was like, yeah, I was pissed off, for lack of a better term. It's like, I was so frustrated. Why did she leave me and come back? So he used her in the inbox and said, hey, like, where'd you go? And so that's a negative reaction. So whereas like for me, I was like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity. Look, like it just basically fell on your lap.
Yeah.
Now she wants to go on a date with you. Then why did you have to make it negative? And he's like telling me now, I find that, I was telling him about, so let's pretend that if you have a mother that abandoned you, now she's back. Wouldn't you be happy to see her? And then he said that, yeah, that's exactly what happened. My mother did abandon me and she came back when I was 18. I was like, oh, so this is why you feel a certain way. Mm-hmm. A lot of times our relationship with our mothers dictate how we feel about women.
That's really interesting. So what played out in his life was now as a child and as a teenager was now playing out in his dating life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. So in order to have a great dating life, you got to trust the other people that you are going on dates with. So if you're unable to trust that, then you're unable to be comfortable and be vulnerable and share your own personal experiences. So in order to have a good connection, two parties have to be able to share and communicate. So if one party is clammed up, then the other party, there's nothing they can really do.
I've got two questions in mind, but I'll ask the first one. My first question is, if someone's had multiple knockbacks before they come and see you, how do you bring them out of that cycle of where they see themselves as a failure? Mm-hmm. I can't date, I can't attract anyone, this is my past.
Right. So everything that's happened in the past dictates how you are in the present, and everything happens in the present dictates what's going to happen in the future. So just because bad things have happened to this person doesn't mean that it has to be the trend going forward. So what we do is we break it down and set positive affirmations, understanding what they want, almost like working backwards. Here's the goal. What do we need to do to get to this goal? What are some steps? A lot of times it's not about the how, it's about the who. So who are you? How do you become this person? Like, who should you become in order to have these goals, to achieve these goals?
No.
My second question is, when I'm listening to you, I'm like, well, I get how you're applying this in dating, but all of these skills are transferable into other areas of our lives. Do you have stories or a particular client where you've helped them in the dating side, but now they've had success in other areas of their life?
Yeah, definitely with the careers. This is very applicable to everything, even with friends, like you have a different energy now. Like this person, is more assertive. For example, with careers, a lot of times people are pushovers. A lot of my clients are very nice people and they tend to want to please others, but get validation from others. So, and I'm telling them, like, do you want to do this? Like, do you want to take on this project that this other person just dumped on you? They're like, no, not really. But, I feel like it's the right thing to do. And then I challenge them to say, hey, because it's really taking up a lot of your time. So why don't you just say something next time? For example, you don't have to be confrontational, because a lot of times if they were never assertive, it's 0 to 100. It's like, oh, I'm going to take this project, or, hey, no, screw you. Like all these cuss words come out. There's no like in between. So I'm teaching them how to be like in between, like being assertive, say, hey, I appreciate you giving this opportunity, but at this time, my plate is pretty full. And I know this other person would love to take this opportunity. Nothing against you. It's just that I can't really do this at the moment.
Yeah. Wow. It's about helping someone find that balance between being an overpleaser and finding that assertive nature where they...
Right. And they gain a lot of confidence from being able to express that. They feel like, wow, I never did this before. Now I feel like people are expecting me more in the office.
Yeah, wow, it's really awesome. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about rewriting that part of their story, do you think?
Biggest misconceptions is going to be they don't feel like they can, or they don't see their potentials. And it's crazy because I have coached a lot of people, and a lot of people are very similar because of the similar personality traits. And I see the potential for them, but yet they don't see it. So they come to me with a very realistic goal, very minimal goal. Like, I just want to go more dates. I'm like, okay, we can do this. Like, no way. Like, we can get to that. So that's the big misconception, is that would this work even for me? Like, I've tried all these other things, but I haven't gotten results. Maybe this is going to be a pattern for me moving forward. Right. And then it's up to me to convince them it's going to be otherwise, because it's really about rewiring your brain. Whatever you think is possible or not possible, you're right. If you feel like coaching is going to work for you, then yes, coaching is going to work for you. You're going to find ways to make it work. If you feel like it's not going to work, then you might as well just start it in the first place.
Yeah.
For you personally, what is the most rewarding part of what you do?
Yeah. I mean, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this, talking about it. The most rewarding part is going to be when someone reaches their goals, or they email me or message me and say, wow, look at this. Like, this is what I did. I can't believe it's working. Or like, it finally clicks for me. And then even seeing them getting engaged or in a relationship, that's super rewarding for me, even though they might feel like, yeah, this is something that's meant to happen. But for me, I'm like, yes, this is what they wanted. Happiness is going to come from all of that.
Can I ask you, what was the first really successful date that got you thinking, yes, I can do this?
So I guess when I was younger, I never really had any success with women, even though I was the funny guy, but I was more so, it's like laughing at me, but not laughing with me. So eventually when I started even going on dates with attractive women, that was almost like the affirmation I needed. It's like, wow, like I can actually do this. I'm surprised that this person's actually attracted to me. And eventually, just helping others and going out with more people and more dates, and even just asking people, I'm like, wow, why are you going out with me? Like, what about this other guy that we both know? Like, isn't he more attractive? They're like, no, like, your personality and the way you can connect with me goes far more than the other guy ever did.
Did mentors play a part in your journey?
Definitely. Oh yeah. I still have people that I look up to and pay money every month. So it's all about growing. And I believe the best investment that you can ever have is actually into yourself, because it's almost like everything that I put in, I got 10x out of it. Most recently, I had a fitness coach and as well as a content coach to help me create better content. So I'm posting more often on my social medias. And even back then, I had a mindset coach, business coach. And that's how I was able to make this a full-time position, because I had someone that's done coaching before, because I had no idea how to make it into a business model, right? I was just doing it on the side in the beginning.
That's so really rich in how you've gotten there and like what you've actually done with people to help them get over those limiting beliefs.
And what is the mindset journey that you've had, like for yourself?
Yes. So in the beginning, I was more so a pessimistic person. I saw the world as a realistic place, or I blamed a lot of my failures on society or even other people. For example, whenever I was younger, I would blame my parents for not teaching me English well or whatever, or even after college, I was like, why am I so poor? It's because no one taught me how to be rich. So I was blaming others, even with society. I'm like, okay, so if I was a white person in this country, I would have had it better than being a yellow person. But eventually I was like, you know what? This has to stop. I can't keep on blaming others. There's certain things I can do right now to make my life better. And I started working on myself. I started seeing the world as a positive place. And once that shift happened, people started seeing me as a positive being of light. And everyone likes someone that's positive. So I made a lot of friends, made a lot of connections that way. And that's the biggest mindset shift, from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. Like, this is the person that I am. I don't have to stay here. I can grow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Who have been your biggest supporters? I'm just curious.
That's interesting, because as an only child, I had to really fend for myself.
Yeah.
My parents, I tell them something, they're like, no, you can't do this. Or they would always shut me down first. So I had to lean on myself a lot. So I think my best friend was telling me this. He was saying, one thing I really admire about you is that you never get in your own way. And I don't, I see something, I want to do it and I do it and I find a way to do it. So I think the biggest supporter I have is myself and my faith. Definitely.
I love that. That's great. Yeah.
So where do you see yourself going with this in the future? Like, how far do you want to take this?
Yeah. So I have a sales background as well. So business wise, actually, I would love to make 7 figures in 2025. Yeah. That's the goal. So make $1 million in 2025. And I'd like to be a best-selling author as well in the next year or the next 2 years. And with that, I want to reach millions of people, maybe even 1 billion people.
Yeah, we love that passion, Aisen. So there's 2 questions that we love to ask at the end of every podcast. And then one of those is, what advice would you give to someone today who wanted to rewrite their life story?
Yes, that's a good question. I would say just start. The person that you are now doesn't have to be the person that you're going to stay. As long as you make the first steps to move forward, there's a nice path for you laid out.
Absolutely. And so what would it look like for you now if you went back and rewrote your life story?
I would look for someone like me. I wish I had someone like me, really, because this is why I do what I do, is because I created the person that I needed, and now I'm giving him back to the world.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Aisen, that's just some really great perspective. And I love that, you're honoring your journey in this, and that's really important. So thank you for sharing that. Aisen, it's been great having you on today's show. And if you want to know more about Aisen and the Asian dating coach, make sure you check out the show notes where we'll have his website, all his socials. Check out his YouTube channel. There's heaps of content on his YouTube channels as well as his TikTok channel, and you can learn more about him. Aisen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Charlie, for having me here. I had a great time.
Now that we've interviewed our guest, join Charlene and I as we recap today's episode. I was very interested, Charlene.
It's probably very different from many of those.
Well, we've never had a dating coach. And I guess if you look at the fact that, yes, Aisen is a dating coach and he's had great success in the area, he's also rewritten his story in many ways as well. But I think what I loved about him is what he said. Even if dating's not your thing, and if you are struggling in this area of dating or building your confidence, I strongly suggest you reach out to him. But the skills are transferable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love. It's not just about finding pickup lines or these little strategies to try and get someone to like you. It's finding out who you are, isn't it? And really finding your own worth.
Yeah, and he's building that self. He's helping, not building that self-worth in others. Yes. He's helping his clients identify their own self-worth. And I love the strategy that he used on a scale of 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. And when a client rates himself as a 7, he will work on that client and say, okay, imagine this person, imagine that person. How would you rate them? Realizing that they're a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it.
Thank you for listening to our podcast today. We hope you found it informative and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and share it with your friends and family. Also, make sure to visit our website at www.rewriteyourlifestory.com.au to learn more about our mission, products and services. And remember, you have the power to rewrite your own life story. So go out there, face your challenges head on, and create the life you've always wanted. We'll see you in the next episode.